Hello, everybody. Happy almost the end of February. It's great to be back live again with another part of Oklahoma City corruption, corruptacoma, corruptahoma, however you want to say it. Cherie, hello. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm just, me, I let myself get all sorts of frazzled and stuff like that. And, simple things that should take little time. We just talked about this before we went live. Things that really are, should be quick, easy explanations of things. I turn into great big, major, huge ass projects that put me frazzled at the last minute. So
if you're
anyway.
looking for detail, you're in the right place.
Yes, I am very detail oriented. I think that could be a good thing, but I don't know. We'll see. So most of you, if you listen to this or watch this, you're going to be doing it on the replay, be a part of the replay crew because I don't see, but I do see Shaz. Hello, my friend. It is so great to see you. I'm so happy to have you in a live chat. It's been so long since we've had you in a live chat. And I know how frustrated and angry you get about this, about Daniel's case altogether. And it's really hard for you. But today it's not going to be about Daniel as much, but as more about the corruption in Oklahoma City. So, a little bit about Daniel, of course, but not much. And Anthony, is that the right name? I can't see. Anthony D. Anthony, it is so great to see you in chat as well. Thank you so much for being here and for hanging out with us. So, but Cherie, Cherie has some news that is new since the last time we were live that I think is some of the most fabulous news that a person can give. Cherie?
Are you talking about my new granddaughter?
Yes.
Yeah, she was born January 22nd, and her name is Charlamagne.
Charlamagne, that's so cute.
Gorgeous. Might be a little prejudiced, but she is.
Oh. Well, listen, if you want to show a picture or something, use the screen share later after we get done. Please feel free to do that. Looks like several more people have jumped in to listen and watch. So we're not going to spend a ton of time going over much of anything. I invited Rick, of course. Rick's been invited to join us on the panel. Cherie and I spent several hours talking, I think it was Sunday, about what we were going to do today, and all these different really great plans that we had. And so I had typed a bunch of that out to Rick and was going to send that to him in our Discord group. And I did type it out, but I didn't hit send. So it wasn't until I went to give them both the link to get on the panel here that I realized I hadn't hit send to Rick. So he might be like, although it's not like him, but there might be a little annoyance. He might be otherwise busy and not able to join us or join us right away. So anyway, but we love Rick. There was nothing crazy behind it. It was just a mistake on my part. So yes, it is awesome. I just want to hold the babies when I see the pictures of them and hear about them. Okay, so I don't know if it looks like some people have viewed. I uploaded a short video clip. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Friday of last week. It's only about 2 minutes long. I don't know how many of you who are here watching now actually saw the video clip, but worry not, because you know me, I am going to show it to you now. It's only about 2 minutes long, and this is going to be the jumping off point for what we're going to talk about a little bit more today. So here we go.
we would pull the case files that were on the list and then put them in a box, and they would take them down to an area, and the city would dig a big hole, and the evidence was shoved in that hole, and it was set on fire.
And was that done, was the location of that by some type of a river or water?
It was down by the Oklahoma River at some place. I'm not 100% sure.
Right. Did you ever observe that process by the Oklahoma River? Were you ever present when they were digging the hole and putting the evidence in it?
I think I was there one time.
And then what did you observe when you were there?
That the city dug a great big huge hole, and the boxes that the evidence to be destroyed in was shoved into that big old hole. It was set on fire, and then they would cover it up.
Okay. And you observed that on one occasion?
Yes.
And how many times did, under Ms. Gilchrist's tenure, how many times was that done where evidence was taken down, removed from the evidence vaults and taken down and destroyed? Once a year?
Every couple of years, I think, maybe every 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so that is that little short video. And there's Rick, who I owe the hugest apology to. I'll discuss that with him at a later time. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing good. Yes, we will discuss that later.
Okay. I'm so sorry. If you're busy, you really don't have to hang out.
Nope.
I understand.
I just wasn't physically at my machine when you sent the link. I was in the car in town.
Oh, or jumping out of an airplane.
No doing that today. The weather didn't cooperate. Tomorrow, however.
Could be a whole new day. Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Shaz has a question here. She says that she's heard that before. It's disgusting, burning evidence. Thank you for saying that. That's kind of what I want everyone to kind of be thinking about as I go through this presentation. So Rick, I don't know if you've heard my excuse or not, but it's an excuse. It doesn't matter how I try to paint it. It's an excuse, but it's legitimately that I had, after a couple of hours of Cherie and I talking over the weekend on Sunday, I told her I'll get in touch with Rick and I'll share all this information because we made some pretty good plans. And I did. I did type that all out to you, but I didn't hit send.
That
Excuse me.
pesky little enter button.
That damn enter button got in my way or out of my way. So we're hopefully.
And you know the maximum effective range of an excuse, right?
Yeah, I know. It is. It's an excuse. It's an excuse, but it's the truth, and it's the only truth I have at the moment. So, but we're talking about. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video clip that I uploaded a couple of last week sometime.
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about that today. We're going to talk about just overall the corruption that has been a part of Oklahoma City's legacy, really, if I could even use that term, or that word. But back in 2020, when Cherie and I were still pretty new to this case, and I don't know how long we had been researching, but somehow I think it was part of our very beginning videos. We were doing something that was called hashtag 95 facts, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right, Cherie? It's been so long.
Yeah, Jason Flom of the Wrongful Conviction podcast helped put that together.
Right.
helped.
Yeah, that's right. Jason Flop. Yeah, yeah. So when Cherie and I first became familiar with the case and wanted to get involved with Daniel's case, as Cherie reminded me, Jason Flom, who has a wrongful, is it a true crime podcast, or is it specifically? I think it's a true crime podcast.
I think it's called Wrongful Conviction, but I'd have to look. It's been a while.
It's been a long time since I've heard it, but he did an episode for on Daniel's case, and it was a really good episode. So I don't know, I'll try to find it. It's been so long since I've listened to it. But anyway, he was part, I guess, of helping to put together for people just learning about Daniel's case and just, not knowing the questions to ask or all the typical things that we still talk about to this day. He helped put together 95 facts of information that people would typically, get wrong, make mistakes about, lie about, that kind of thing. So him and whoever else they were working with went through and put together these 95 facts. And we actually started the channel going through those 95 facts. And pretty soon we talked about it, and we kind of felt like a lot of the information throughout the 95 facts was just being repeated over and over in different ways, shapes, and forms. So anyway, when we were reading through some of those, the name of this book came up, and because Elaine Taylor, who was the crime lab analyst for Daniel's case, her name comes up in this book. And so we were just like chomping at the bit. Oh my gosh, what is it? So Cherie and I both bought the book. I think Cherie even bought a copy of it for Daniel, if I'm not mistaken, and sent to Daniel because he wanted to be a part of a podcast that we would do. I think we talked about doing it weekly, where we would read a chapter of the book, and then we would get Daniel's thoughts and opinions about the chapter, and go over it live on the channel. And so that was a whole different separate podcast that we were doing, and it was way too much work for me. So anyway, we did start that, though. Daniel couldn't speak with us, that wasn't allowed, but we would share his thoughts, from each chapter. Eventually, he wanted to be a part of it because he knew that Elaine Taylor was mentioned in this book, or was, quoted in this book. So he wanted to be a part of that. And eventually it became really difficult for him because, at least this is my recollection, mine and Cherie's, that it became difficult for him to read all of the stuff in this book, because it was not just, nothing about his case is in the book, but so many people involved in his case, and who were still at the time very deep in Oklahoma City, politics and law and all that stuff. It was making him it was difficult for him, and it was upsetting for him. So anyway, couple of really good quick things about that. I read, I think, all but the last 2 chapters of the book and recorded it. And it's in one of the rooms, I believe, in our Discord. I think it's called Let's Read Some Books or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. At any rate, I don't know if you can even still get them, because they were just Google Docs links, if I'm not mistaken. At any rate, I read all but the last 2 chapters of that book, and it's called Death and Justice. So what we're going to do, because Elaine Taylor was quoted in this book several times, I put together a slide presentation, and we're going to, let me make sure that's, Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. It's only about 5 slides, maybe 6, real kind of brief. So we'll go through them. Rick and or Cherie, if you guys would like to read these as I put them up, because I'd rather hear your voices than mine. They're not very big. Or one of you can read them all, however you guys want to do it, or I'll do it all. It's up to you guys.
You can't.
So-
read
You
it.
want me to cold read live on air? Yeah.
No. You don't have to.
Off the screen, not printed out where I can actually see it by increasing the font.
You don't have to.
Well, if he doesn't want to, I can.
Okay, I get it though. Like I said, Rick's had no notice of this. Let's see which screen is the best screen to do this on. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that one and see. Okay, so I haven't done a slide presentation in probably a couple of years, so let me see if I can remember how to do this. I'll just go ahead and, I don't know why it's saying play because there's no sound on it. Did I put the wrong thing up here? Oh, I did. Okay, that's what I thought. Something isn't right. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. I'll just remove that altogether. Here's what I'm talking about. Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay, so this is on your screen. I think on your left is a picture of Elaine Taylor. This was a screenshot that I grabbed from her, from that, watching that little deposition clip that we had. And then over here on the other side is author of the book Death and Justice. And that is, and I know this always gets a big reaction, but I'm telling you, this book was super, super good. But Mark Fuhrman writes the book on this. And because it is kind of small, I'm going to read what Mark Fuhrman says right next to his photograph there. It says, Mark Fuhrman was a firm believer in the death penalty. What he saw in Oklahoma changed his mind. It might change yours. Because this book was about the death penalty in Oklahoma City, or in Oklahoma. And so that's why this is titled the way it is. But so that's just the picture of the two of them. And then if someone would like to read this one.
Former Crime Lab analyst Elaine Taylor admits under oath, we threw the evidence in a hole and set it on fire.
So Shaz mentioned early on how disgusting this is, how disgusting she thought this is. I think it is too. So just kind of think about that as we go through this. They would put boxes of evidence, test tube. The big controversy, or the big thing about this particular part of her testimony, and which is in the book as well, is that they were talking specifically initially about a bunch of rape kits that had been, for whatever reason, Joyce Gilchrist, who was the former the crime lab supervisor at the time, who is full of controversy and lies and corruption. And you read about all that in the book, by the way. She lied, she altered evidence, forensic evidence. She cheated about manipulated forensic evidence, all kinds of crazy things. And so it's hard to tell this little brief part about Elaine Taylor's involvement without you knowing about Joyce Gilchrist and Bob Macy and their tenure in the Oklahoma Crime Lab and DA's office. But anyway, so next slide. About the book. The book is called Death and Justice, an Exposé of Oklahoma's Death Row Machine. Author is Mark Fuhrman. It was published September 28th, 2004, a long time ago. And the book investigates systemic failures in Oklahoma's criminal justice system. And the book itself features testimony from various crime lab insiders. Cherie and I recognized names in the book that just surprised us because they were also names that we recognize from Daniel's case and Daniel's period of time, during his trial and whatnot. So that's what the book is about. Cherie, do you want to read about who Elaine Taylor was?
Who is Elaine Taylor? Former crime lab analyst at Oklahoma City Police Department, worked under Supervisor Joyce Gilchrist. Years of service, 27 years. She retired on February 3rd in 2017. Later testified in Daniel Holtzclaw's civil suit, 2019.
Okay, and that's what the little video clip that I just played for you was, just a portion of her deposition for the civil suit, which I'll just remind everybody again, the civil suit was dropped by the remaining plaintiffs in the case I think it was literally the week before the trial was set to begin. So they dropped the suit, and then Oklahoma City, for whatever reason, I have my ideas about the reasons, but Oklahoma City ended up, giving them some money anyway, even though they dropped their suit. But anyway, and it's, you can call it a settlement, but I wouldn't really call it a settlement. I don't know. You two can decide if you'd like to refer to it as a settlement. I mean, I think it was a settlement on Oklahoma City's part, because they just wanted it all to go away. They didn't want a civil trial or anything else.
They didn't want him to appeal.
Yeah, they didn't want an appeal. Exactly. Thank you. Okay, and then just a couple of quick little quotes from Elaine Taylor. From the book, Death and Justice. Quote, "The rape kits, as a rule of thumb, were destroyed after 2 years, and Joyce stated to us that it was by direction of Mr. Macy." And that was Elaine Taylor, quoted in the book, and that was on page 113 of Death and Justice. So, like I said, initially, this was all about these rape kits. But it wasn't just about rape kits. It was other, as you heard her say in the deposition, boxes of evidence and other things as well that were, it sounds made up. I don't know how Cherie and Rick feel about this, but it freaking sounds made up that they would dig a big hole by a river, shove a bunch of evidence and rape kits and forensic information into this hole and burn it, and then cover it all up, bury it all up. It just sounds made up to me.
Well, by saying that, and particularly naming Macy, saying he directed it, she's accusing Mr. Macy of committing a crime.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
It
is actually illegal in Oklahoma to do that without notifying the people involved in the litigation that it was used for and giving them an opportunity to get a preserval order. It's 22, 13, 26, 13, 27. One of those two is the Oklahoma statute. Before any evidence can be destroyed, the clerk of the court for that case has to put out a public notice and give parties an opportunity to petition the court for a preservation order.
Sounds like giving.
If that wasn't done, they broke the law.
Well,
I agree.
go ahead, Cherie.
I was just going to say it reminds me of the Stephen Avery case, giving away the bones, and they never notified Stephen that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially when you're talking about biological evidence, and we've learned that over the years. When you're talking about biological evidence, now I don't know if this is a statute in every state, but I think most states have something very similar. But in Wisconsin, when we were studying, going through the Avery and Dassey cases, it was a statute that you could not, like Rick said, for Oklahoma, you could not destroy biological evidence. And there were only a couple of reasons. One of them was the case was completely, I think that the defendant had to have died, I think was one of them. And I think there was only a couple. Cherie, do you remember the exact reasons in the Avery case that we were?
No, I can't. I remember that one of the guys who helped write it, Norm Gahn, was part of getting rid of them.
Right, exactly. He helped write the statute, but that was also a party to getting rid of the bones in the case. So yeah. Anyway, but Rick is right.
Nothing like breaking the law you helped draft. Yeah.
Exactly. That was literally the controversy with that situation in Wisconsin.
Stacy Seabrook was or he still is a man who writes songs, and he wrote a lot of songs about the case. And one of his songs, he had Norm Dem Bones Be Gone, it's kind of a play on his name.
His name.
It was pretty smart of him.
Yeah. Stacy Seabrook's amazing, very brilliant songwriter. So yeah. So anyway, they were all a party to it. And I'm only going to share just a couple of things with you, but yes, in this particular quote, she says that as a rule of thumb, the rape kits, which was the topic of wherever Mark Fuhrman was in his writing at this point, that was the topic of the conversation. It goes back to, and we have old videos about this, but it goes back to a wrongful conviction of a really, really, really bad guy in Oklahoma. There's no doubt that this man was a vile human, and he was accused of raping and murdering an old lady. And for all the other horrific crimes that this man had committed, his name was Malcolm Rent Johnson.
I remember that.
Do you remember? Yeah. For all of the horrible, heinous things that he had done and served his time for, he had already done his time, sentenced to prison and served his time in prison. And then he was accused of raping and murdering this old lady. And long story short, they ended up executing him for that. And if you read the book, which I strongly encourage people to read this book, it's really good. Forget about who the author is and your feelings about that. Just read the content because it's super interesting and very informative. But at some point, it's learned definitively that Malcolm Rent Johnson was not the man who raped and murdered this old lady. But he was executed for it anyway. So that, I think we did pretty detailed in one of our older videos about Malcolm Rent Johnson. Excuse me, but he's not the only one who was, later found to be innocent, or even before he was executed, found to be innocent and executed anyway. There are several examples in the book about these kinds of things. Men being executed in Oklahoma City for crimes they didn't commit. So, but But in this particular part, they're talking specifically about the rape kits. Uh-oh, that was an accident. Oopsie. So part of the evidence destruction practice, which was part of their culture, evidently in Oklahoma City, Elaine Taylor says, quote, "I never saw anything in writing. She," meaning Joyce Gilchrist, "was my immediate supervisor, so I believe the only thing I could do was to follow her orders or else pay the consequences," end quote. Taylor said that Gilchrist told her she had a blanket okay from Mr. Macy to destroy rape evidence. And those are excerpts from the book. I think that was also on page 113.
I wonder why it's only rape that they were so in a hurry to destroy.
I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what is going on because.
Do you want the short answer?
Of what?
Because back then DNA testing was not as accurate as it got later.
Right. Well,
Convictions
yeah,
that were gotten off of PCR testing, an inaccurate PCR test got thrown out after the testing procedures improved and the DNA that they kept on evidence was retested. That's why they were getting rid of them.
Right. Yeah. Well, and they said, they talked. I accidentally. Oh no, I didn't. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. And in the book, Taylor, I believe, or somebody, there's a lot of people in this book, so I don't want to misquote who said this, but it was mentioned that, according to Joyce Gilchrist, these were everybody, over 200 rape kits. I think it was well above 200 rape kits, but over 200 rape kits, if I'm not mistaken, were destroyed in this manner. And which just infuriates me, all of us, I'm sure. But she says that, everybody was, I believe actually, Elaine Taylor says this somewhere in the book, that all of the, investigators involved with all of these rape kits and all of the law enforcement and family members and everybody was all evidence that, was not going to ever be used again. So to save room or make room in the crime lab, in the freezer section or whatever, they decided that's why they got rid of the rape kits. Unicorn Mullet. This book is called Death and Justice.
It's a good book. It is a really good book.
Let me add this back to the stage and I'll get you right back to I'll get back to the title page of it so you can see it. So this is the name of the book, Unicorn Mullet, and welcome, by the way. And it was a book written in 2004 published in 2004 by Mark Fuhrman. And I always have to give the disclaimer, don't pay attention to the author, forget what you hate or whatever about him. He wrote really good books where true crime stories are concerned. And this was one of the best, in my opinion. Definitely worth the read. But I just wanted to.
And it's still available, guys. Hang on a second, and I'll drop a link in the chat from Amazon. Good. You can still get it on Amazon.
Yep, I had that pulled up, but I'm glad you have it ready to post. Thank you.
Whoops.
Whoop, wrong one.
Delete that.
Yeah, delete that one quick.
I hit paste instead of copy.
Okay. We've done that before, and it was a big mistake. Yes, Unicorn Mullet. Mark Fuhrman. Yep, the same Mark Fuhrman who was involved in the O.J. Simpson case for sure. Okay, so there's the book.
Yeah, you're going to have to copy that link into two different things. It looks like.
Let's see what it's. You know what? It is so hard for some reason. I don't know what it is about Amazon links that just are, for me anyway. My daughter has no problem sharing an Amazon link, but I can't do it without 900 pieces of code or whatever.
There, I got it to go all in one.
Did you get it? Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. So it's a really good book. Like I said, just forget about the author, who the author is. Oh, well, I didn't expect that, but I'm really pleased to see you say that. Fuhrman is a good officer regarding procedure. He had that one mess up. Yeah, I mean, and he lied. He lied, which, the biggest
You know
part.
what, Unicorn? I'm not even sure he messed up that one time. I think Van Allen, whatever the other detective's name was, and his partner threw Fuhrman under the bus when they screwed it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was the lie, the lying about the racial comments that I think really cooked him, or at least from my memory. Yes, his book on, I haven't read the book on Moxley, but I've heard it's really good. So I don't know who I think that whole culprit is on that. I forget about all the details, but I really think it was if I'm not mistaken, the last I paid any attention to that, I think I thought came away from whatever I was reading that it was the Kennedy kid. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But so read this one, Unicorn. If I don't know if you've thought about it, but if you're okay with Mark Fuhrman's, writing style and everything else, you want to read this book. It's really, really good. But the culture of the crime lab that went all the way back to DA Bob Macy and Joyce Gilchrist as the crime lab supervisor was according to many of the others who are quoted in the book, and according to Elaine Taylor, who I have no love lost for, but Taylor says Gilchrist. So this is the culture in the crime lab. Gilchrist's whole supervisory techniques seem to be based on only emotions, vengeance, vendettas, end quote. And she said, quote again, "You never knew what to expect from her. So the only choice, if you wanted to stay in this career field, was to keep your mouth shut and do what she told you. It was like walking around on eggshells all the time." And that's on page, I believe, 109 of Death and Justice. So that kind of, I felt like it's hard to summarize just what the culture was, from the book. But I felt like that kind of was a short, decent, summary that made sense to me having read it. So, listen, if you go back, I don't have my own videos downloaded to my own folders in my own stuff, but so I can't, I can show it to you, but you would be better off to go way back early when I didn't know anything about editing or much about doing a YouTube to begin with. There's videos for Elaine Taylor. There's a video with Elaine Taylor and Joyce Gilchrist. And then there's also a video that we did about Bob Macy, who was at this time when this book is being, this time period of the book, was the DA, Bob Macy. And I don't know if I'm going to show this whole thing. I don't know how many slides were involved in this, but whoops. What is happening? I'll remove that one. Okay. But I forgot I even did this, but I'll just kind of go through this really quick about Bob Macy, who was during the time biggest time frame of corruption that's talked about in the book. Pat Brown does not like me. if Pat Brown is who I think it is, she chewed me out and told me that never to talk to her again, and she deleted me from the internet in her mind. That's okay, but I have seen some stuff by Pat Brown and her opinion about Daniel's case. So thank you for that, Unicorn. So anyway, I forgot I even made these slides, but the corruption with the Oklahoma City DA's office and crime lab probably started before this, before Bob Macy, but certainly during the time that Bob Macy was in the DA's office. He was very controversial and very aggressive, and you can read about some of that aggression and overreach and corruption in the book. So again, another good reason to watch it. But he was referred to, I guess, as Cowboy Bob Macy or Hang 'em High Bob during his tenure. Then that's just a little, bio of him, more bio of him. And then it says, I can't remember where this is quoted from. Oh, I think this was a Bob Macy quote. Well, heck, you might be saying Bob Macy's not such a bad guy. But he really, from everything I've read, he was a pretty bad guy. And then this was interesting. This is pretty old. I guess it was published in 2016. So yeah, 10 years old. But it says it was, I can't remember where this was from. I believe it was from a newspaper or a magazine article during the time, but it says a quote by Professor Ryan Patrick Alford, quote, there's no better example of how a weak state judicial system was overpowered by a powerful and malicious district attorney than that of Cowboy Bob Macy and the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. At the time, what this number 2 is referring to at the time, I think they listed the 5 worst, not worst wasn't the right word, most aggressive as far as using the death penalty and prosecutions and stuff, that Bob Macy was the second most, how do I say it? He had more death executions under his belt than all the other prosecutors in the country. He was number 2, and I think they did this a top 5, if I'm not mistaken. But so he was number of death sentences was 54. He was in office from 1980 to 2001, so 21 years. Misconduct alleged was 94.4%, or roughly 51 out of 54 of cases of the death sentences that he got were basically had misconduct. That's a lot. If you have 54 and 51 of them have proven misconduct, it's just,
well, that's not proven. That's alleged.
The
proven is the next one down. That's 18 of 54, which is still way too much.
It's way too many. Yeah, thank you for saying that. And then this is very small for me because I'm just reading it from the screen. I think it says exonerations. There were 3 exonerations during this time. And like I said, the book, I'm telling you, is just full of wrongful convictions and whatnot that went on in under Bob Macy's tenure. So these are some more things. Just again, other other kind of bio stuff about Bob Macy. This is what Mark Fuhrman said, I believe, in his book. I just don't think I had the page number on this slide, but he said, Quote, some people I spoke to thought Macy was more than just simple. They saw a ruthless politician and an unscrupulous prosecutor. Macy was vicious and spiteful, in the words of one defense attorney. He ruined a lot of people who got in his way, end quote. Another quote, Macy was unethical, another defense attorney said, and I think he fostered that attitude among many of the prosecutors in the office. I'll agree with that because we've talked a lot about, in Daniel's case, about David Prater, who was the district attorney at the time of Daniel's trial. David Prater, there's a video on David Prater, at least one on David Prater too, in our back in the days. David Prater was, although he kind of comes off a little more sensible in the book, Death and Justice, but he certainly did not maintain that sort of measured behavior when he was DA. And then he says, Macy sees everything in black and white, right or wrong. Jim Rowan said, and Jim Rowan was one of the prosecutors for, it's so hard to remember. Cherie, was Jim Rowan involved in Richard Glossop's case? Do you remember? Or was that somebody else?
I can't remember. I just found the article. I'm trying to link it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But anyway, Jim Rowan, I believe he may or may not have been involved in Richard Glossop's case somewhere along the line. But at any rate, he says, if you're on his good side, you can do no wrong. If you're against him, there's nothing good about you. So those are just some quotes from various people in the book. And so these are Macy's death penalty cases. I'll try to read through them really quickly. Sean Sellers, Scotty Moore, Malcolm Rent Johnson, the one I told you about, Ronald Keith Boyd, James Robidoux, Eddie Leroy Trice, Wanda Jean Allen. If I'm not mistaken, Wanda Jean Allen was part of, we were talking about John Farrak the other day, Cherie, and he wrote a book about, at any rate, that's a whole other thing. Floyd Allen Medlock, Michael Donald Roberts, Marilyn K. Plants, Roger Burgett, William Bryson, Lois Nadine Smith, Shahib Al Masawi, Dion, I can't see that one. And then Mark Fowler. So Mark Fowler is, I believe, in chapter 8, I think, of Death and Justice. His story might go on for a couple of chapters. Broke my heart to the point when I was reading and recording it, I had a hard time choking back the tears about the story about Mark Fowler. So these are just 16 men and women that Macy prosecuted or was part of prosecuting. All of these men and women were executed, and at least one of them is believed to be innocent of the crime he was executed for. And that was Malcolm Rent Johnson, I believe is who that refers to. So 3 cases that Macy got wrong: Malcolm Rent Johnson, Mark Andrew Fowler, and Robert Lee Miller. And we covered all 3 of those, if I'm not mistaken. I know for sure Johnson and Miller we covered pretty extensively on another old video. But they're talked about pretty extensively in this book. And then this looks like, looks like I have a whole slide about Malcolm Rent Johnson. I was very ambitious and didn't realize it. I kind of feel like I want to go over him now, but I won't. Ura Alma Thompson was the name of the woman that he was accused of executing, or accused of raping and murdering. That was a big story in the book. Johnson's was. Malcolm Rent Johnson was a really dumb guy, said Bob Rabbits, who was an investigator, and believed that Johnson was guilty. But the thing about Malcolm Rent Johnson is that Joyce Gilchrist lied about the forensic evidence in his case. And again, it's in these slides right here. I don't know if I can somehow publish this, but if I can, I'll figure out how to put it in Discord or something, or I don't know, on a community tab or something on the channel. I don't know how that would work. But anyway, these are all things that you can read in the book, though. And then, yeah, I spent a lot of time, it looks like, on Johnson's case. Now, Johnson sat in prison during this time. There was the moratorium on executions in Oklahoma City. Rick, do you know about that moratorium where you could kind of talk about and explain that a little bit?
Not specifically the Oklahoma one, no.
Okay. So I don't remember what year it happened, but there was a moratorium on executions in Oklahoma, and it had to do with the type of drugs they were using for lethal injection. There's a lot more to it, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because my memory about all the details are very, very, very thin. But at any rate, I think it was a 7-year-long moratorium that there were no executions. And I believe it was literally the day or the week, maybe the month after they lifted the moratorium, they executed Malcolm Rent Johnson. Bob Rabbits, who I said, you know, Johnson was a dumb guy, was assigned to defend Johnson, but he was a public defender, and he wasn't very well defended at all. He wasn't defended at all, basically. Let's see. That's a newspaper article that was going on about the time. This is all from the book. So now this is Joyce Gilchrist. So if you've never heard of Joyce Gilchrist, don't know anything about her, don't know what she looks like or anything else, I'm going to try to read some of this and I know we're talking about Elaine Taylor, but Elaine Taylor's supervisor for her years in the crime lab was Joyce Gilchrist. So I'll try to read through this. Testifying in her first capital case, Gilchrist stated that Malcolm Rent Johnson's clothing fibers, she's talking about all the alleged evidence in the Johnson case. While she stopped short of saying that the similarities positively linked Johnson to the crime, Gilchrist testified that the hair and fiber evidence found at the crime scene was microscopically consistent with samples taken from the defendant and his clothing. Negroid hairs found on the bed were consistent with Johnson's, Gilchrist testified. Blue cotton fibers entwined in the negroid hair were consistent with those of the blue shirt that Johnson was wearing when he was arrested. So closer examination of the evidence, of the hair evidence, revealed blue-tipped negroid hairs found on the bed that matched hair taken from Johnson's arm. This was a result of Gilchrist's speculated dye rubbing off from Johnson's shirt onto his arms, is how it was allegedly tinted blue. Now, Rabbits in closing testimony or closing arguments during the trial attacked Gilchrist's evidence, alleged, and said that it was that the blue tint Gilchrist saw in the hair evidence was, in fact, the blue lens of a comparison microscope. And he argued that it was crazy to believe that Johnson would rape this victim on the bed, leave hair and semen hair and semen stains on the pillowcase and sheets, and then neatly remake the bed, because when they found Miss Thompson, the bed was made like it hadn't been slept in or anything. So that, Ravitz is saying, he raped her, murdered her, all these things, left semen stains and, pubic hairs or whatever on the pillowcase and on the sheets. And then very, respectfully, if you will, made the bed so it was nice and neat and tidy. I don't know. It could happen, I guess. I mean, I'm sure it has, but very improbable in my mind. Anyway, so this just goes on about how I must have spent a long time on this, talking about all of Joyce Gilchrist's bad behavior in this particular execution case. But in closing arguments, Macy said, Ravitz said, I'm fighting for the freedom right now. I'm fighting for Ura Thompson's discomfort in this city and this county, not to have to live like that, not to have to fear him anymore. They've got a right to live without having that kind of fear. And there's only one way you can stop that kind of fear. And that's to march up to that jury room and convict this man because he's guilty. There's no doubt. There's only one verdict, guilty of murder in the first degree. That was Bob Macy's closing argument. By the end of Macy's closing argument, several jurors were crying, and so was Bob Macy. And this was a criticism about Bob Macy, was that he was so emotional as a district attorney, as a prosecutor, so emotional, and would cry to the jury, in front of the jury, for the jury, and just, I don't know, just a lot of controversy. There's just a whole lot more information about this particular case with Johnson. Skip Palahniuk. Sheree, did I forget that Skip Palahniuk was involved in something about?
I'd forgotten about that too, but that's him. He's a bit older in the Stephen Avery case, but.
Well, and Chris Palahniuk was also part of Avery's case too, if I'm not mistaken. His son,
Yeah.
I think. Anyway, we're talking about a whole other thing. Sorry, guys. Anyway, I'll try to figure out. Maybe Rick knows how I can do this, because this is really a lot of good information, I think, on this slide that I've forgotten about. So all of Johnson's appeals were exhausted, denied, of course, and so he's going to be executed. With his appeals exhausted, Johnson was given an execution date of January 6, 2000. His last meal consisted of 3 fried chicken thighs, a dozen shrimp, tater tots with ketchup, 2 slices of pecan pie, strawberry ice cream, honey and biscuits, and a soda. This was some of the hardest part. When I was reading the Mark Fowler chapter of this book and trying to record it, it broke my heart reading about the last meal and the last, family visits and things like that. Oh, so hard to read and listen to. So before he walked into the death chamber, Johnson met with Reverend Charles Story, the spiritual advisor for death row inmates. He said, quote, "I'm innocent," Johnson told him. "I've got peace in my heart and I'm ready to go home." Later, Story said that Johnson was the only convict he had ever spoken with who did not confess to the crime for which he was being executed. When Johnson was led into the execution chamber, he made a final statement. "I'm going to heaven on a midnight train," Johnson said, then asked God to bless his family, who sat watching in the witness chamber. And then it goes on with all of the details of it. At some point, Joyce Gilchrist, there's a huge scandal that breaks with Joyce Gilchrist in the crime lab. The book goes through all the different investigations and interrogations and, going over evidence that's been allegedly tested or just a ton of information in the book about Joyce Gilchrist. And eventually a big scandal breaks out. And, just in case people might want to listen or read this book, because I really think you should. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but a big scandal did break out. So I'm going to read, I can't remember where this comes from, but I'm going to read it to you because I've got it in this slide. And I've got double asterisks around it, so it must be something important. Interestingly enough, there are now allegations that crucial evidence from recent cases, some of them allegedly high profile, cannot be found on the 4th floor of the courthouse. Some employees' witnesses claim that there is a closet at the end of the hall of the DA's office. And this is during Prater's time in the DA's office, behind lock and key with evidence from some of these cases. What happened to DA David Prater's ethics and honesty between the Johnson case and the Daniel Holtzclaw case? Like I said, David Prater, who was the DA during Daniel's case, was brutal. He was just a major dickhole, brutal, hateful, angry, bitter man. Never
don't hold back, Rhonda. Tell us how you really feel.
Listen, I know Cherie feels the same way because we've talked about it before. How hateful and bitter and corrupt Prater ended up becoming. Because in the book, when you read a little bit, the few parts that there are about Prater, he kind of seems like he hasn't been tainted yet. Let's just put it that way. He hasn't been, completely corrupted at that point. So yeah, anyway, okay. And it looks like I go through the whole, so then I go through, I'm not going to go through all this. This is really long. I don't remember doing this, but I'm going to figure out a way. Rick, if you know how I can publish this entire,
send me the file in a DM and I'll set up a section in the Discord for it.
Okay, perfect. Because it's really worth going through all of these slides. And again, I'm going to keep pushing the book. It's super, super interesting and so informational about the corruption in Oklahoma City from way back. So you can't, for the article, 5 deadliest. Okay, I don't have that article anymore either.
Yeah, it's still there, but I just couldn't get a link that was usable. So, but if you Google that, you find it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to see if I can find it, or anybody else can find it too, about the 5 top deadliest. That's what it was, deadliest district attorneys at that time. Ian Ward, it says, sounds like my ex-wife.
That Google link that you posted takes you to it.
Oh, well, there you go, Cherie. It works.
It's a PDF file, so it shows up as a Google search link, not the name of the actual article.
Oh, okay. Ian, I don't know who you're talking about. Sounds like my ex-wife. Welcome to the channel, by the way.
Maybe when we were describing Prater, I don't know.
Oh, Prater, yeah. Oh, is that what you're talking about, Ian? How hateful and bitter and angry, and he's always had a red face, never smiled. Yeah, that sounds like probably a lot of ex-wives. Not me, but anyway. So this is basically just kind of wanted to give you the history. So, this all started with when I posted the little clip of Elaine Taylor testifying in the deposition about how they destroyed evidence in Oklahoma City, down by the Oklahoma River, with a big old hole dug, evidence, boxes, tubes, rape kits, documents, whatever else, shoved into the big hole and set on fire, and then buried it all up. That there is nothing legal at all about that sort of destruction of evidence. If and when evidence is the time is appropriate to destroy it, that is not the way it's done at all. Now, I am not, it's been a long time since I've read this book, and I need to go back and listen to it again, the parts I've read or something, because even though Kim Davis, who one of the investigators in Daniel's case, even though she's not mentioned in the book, way before her time, there's a case, as the book gets closer to the end, there's a case that comes up where a man named Byron Boschel is trying to go into the crime lab. Excuse me. He's going into the crime. He's been assigned, I think, to go into the crime lab and try to figure out what's going on. What was all of the, stuff about Gilchrist, all the rumors, all of the, evidence and everything else. What's going on in the crime lab with the evidence? I'm going to go in there. I'm going to clean this up. We're going to do an investigation, figure out what's going on, and go from there. So Byron Boschel does this. And again, there's several people involved in this or documenting this, as Mark Fuhrman writes about. And I kind of feel like there is evidence that they talk about in the book that had something to do with either Richard Glossop's case or another case that Kim Davis was involved in during that time, even though she's not in the book, but during that time, there's box of evidence that she had a part of losing track of, if I'm not mistaken. Does that remind you, Rick? Does that sound familiar to you, Cherie?
I can't remember what was in the book, but about that, I don't doubt that there was something. But what comes to mind with Kim Davis was, didn't she lose evidence for Rayshawn Mullen?
Yes. Yep.
And he's still, in prison.
Yeah. He's still in prison. Yeah, I'm going to have to look. I'm just going to type it into my Kindle here and see if Rayshawn Mullins is even mentioned, because if he is, no, maybe not. Okay, maybe it's not going to be then. I don't know. Anyway, the book is super good. It's really what it comes down to. The book is really good, very informative. To me, it was shocking. Some of the stuff that we read was shocking. Like, I was still really naive as far as, corruption in any form of government, courts, law enforcement, still very naive to it. And so the stuff that we were reading a lot of it was very shocking to me. Now it's just like, now I'm used to it. We've read so much and, different cases and been involved in. I was just like, oh yeah, it's bullshit. I mean, I hate that it happened and whatever, but I know it now and I understand it, and excuse me, and know that it's excuse me, hold on a minute. All right. It's just part of, unfortunately, the broken justice system. So anyway, I know that was a pretty big run through. I just wanted to give you kind of a idea about, the corruption and how much a part of the entire system and how far back it has gone in Oklahoma City. So, I mean, I don't really, there are some other videos that I really encourage you to check out. The one about Elaine Taylor and Joyce Gilchrist, and then the one about Bob Macy. And if you read the book and then combine that with these other three videos, you'll be, I don't know if I can even say shocked, but you'll be definitely, your eyebrows will be raising for sure, because it's pretty bad. And I do know that it was really hard learning some things in the book that kind of burst my little naivety button, like, or bubble. Like, you took away some of my innocence.
How did they
even at
get
my
away with
age.
it for so long? Because nobody knew about it.
Yeah. Yep.
And until they actually got somebody that was involved on the record that was too stupid to keep their mouth shut and went, oh yeah, we destroyed it all. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
And they're allowed to get away with it time and time again. I think my cure would be whoever they lose evidence on that might exonerate or whatever, or just lose or destroy evidence, period. That person should be allowed to be free. And then they would learn to do a better job. You touch a hot stove and it burns you, you don't touch it again. So
yeah, I agree. Cherie and I kind of talked about that over the weekend, or at least I did. I remember when they were last spring, last May, I think there were, I think there was an motions to suppress hearings were going on in the Brian Walsh case. And it was, the second Karen Reed trial was still ongoing. But I watched these hearings that were held in May, the suppression hearings for Brian Walsh, because I don't know how many people are listening if you're familiar with that whole shit show or not. But the people who were part of the evidence collection in the Brian Walsh case were also the same people who were involved in investigating. If I can't, that's just, I laughed at that word because there was no investigation in Karen's case, but they were also the same ones. You had Buchanan and Fanning, and I can't remember, DeChico. They had all been a part of collecting evidence in Brian Walsh's case. And I don't know, from all the hearings and all the testimony and everything else that I knew about how that evidence was collected, I thought, not just me, everybody I knew, that evidence should have been suppressed, and it should not have been allowed to, be introduced into his trial, even though I firmly believed, and still do at the time, that Brian Walsh was 100% guilty of murdering his wife and somehow disposing of her body. I had no doubt in my mind that he was guilty of that, just by what we had already learned. But the evidence that was collected, the tech evidence, the phones and all that crap, was illegally obtained. And, it should have been suppressed at his trial. Now, if that had happened, the judge didn't suppress it, she allowed it. But I was kind of bitter about that. A lot of us were kind of bitter about that. But it was allowed in the trial, and he was ultimately found guilty and blah, blah, blah. But they got away with it. Like Shaz is saying, how do they get away with it so long? Because they get away because of that kind of shit. And if they had suppressed that evidence, like so many of us believe they should have, he ended up somehow walking free because of that, I would have been pissed off about that. But at the same time, like Cherie just said, I just about dropped the F-bomb, which I'm not afraid to do, but not quite that upset yet. Keep screwing around with people's lives and evidence and investigations, and guilty people, like legitimately guilty people, start being let free to commit more crimes. Who are we going to blame then? You can't blame, of course, the person who commits the crime, but you have to, that finger has to point right back at whoever was, unethical in their investigation or whatever. So yeah, I get it, Shaz. It's incredibly. And Cherie and I talked about uh, immunity, qualified and absolute immunity. You know, I understand the purpose of qualified immunity and absolute immunity. I get it, and it makes sense to me. But there has to be a threshold. There has to be a line, like a set line, where you don't get to enjoy qualified or absolute immunity because of this thing. But they do. It's almost just a given, it seems like. Whenever a 1983 case is brought, against any government entity, well, it's fine. Accuse me of whatever you want to. I have qualified immunity. That's the attitude.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, and
from top to bottom.
Yes.
YouTube is full of videos of cops on the side of the road absolutely breaking people's Fourth Amendment rights, and their response is always the same.
Yep.
Sue me.
Sue me. Yep.
Take it to
Sue
court.
me. I don't care.
I don't care.
Get in line. Get in line. You're not the first that's going to sue me. Yeah. That really pisses me off. Get in line. I've heard, different videos or whatever I watch. Get in line.
Yeah.
What?
Get in line.
You mean there's a line?
Yeah. Get in line won't be the first time.
Yep.
I actually heard a deputy on body camera in a video yesterday tell this woman, as far as I'm concerned, your First Amendment right or Fourth Amendment rights go out the window when I arrive.
Yeah, just it infuriates me.
Really?
Yeah, it's just insanity. But it's like Cherie said, they keep getting away with it because nobody is held accountable. Very rare is the case where you'll see a cop, at least in my experience, and I've spent the last 4 years, at least 5 years, paying a lot of attention to to different defense attorney channels, First Amendment auditor channel, all the different things. And I've learned a ton. And I don't just take, what I see on the video. If I don't believe a thing or understand it, I do my research to find out how, and what I see is just mind-boggling to me. At the same time, I also feel that we see, I was going to say unfortunately, but I don't think it is unfortunate, but we see the worst of law enforcement and government and things like that. Those things are always highlighted, of course. But I really believe, maybe it's just a hope and a prayer, I don't know, but I really believe that most law enforcement, and I'm not going to say that about government officials, but most law enforcement in any agency, I really believe they are all mostly good, honest, ethical, officers.
Oh yeah, the vast majority of them are good people. Yeah.
And they do the right, they try to honestly and earnestly do the right thing, all the time. And I you see that occasionally, you get to see those. But we see the bad ones, and we need to see the bad ones, although I don't really feel like it's helping much. But anyway.
I watched one today. A woman driving the car refused to allow the police officer to search her vehicle. She was asked if they could search. She said no. Then they used Pennsylvania versus Mims. Well, we're going to have you step out of the vehicle. And then one of the officers went to get in her car, and she went, I told you no, you're not allowed to search my vehicle. Guess what he said he was doing?
Inventory.
No.
We're going to tow the car. Oh.
He was doing a protective sweep for officer safety of the vehicle.
Oh, horse shit. Just come on.
It's a car. It's got 6 windows on it. You can see if there's anybody else in there. What are you worried is going to jump out at you?
Yeah. Plain view is all you need for safety, with one person. Oh my gosh, it is very infuriating. And if exposing all of that shit was like benefiting the public by, cracking down on the nasty ones, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. But I just don't feel like it is. It just isn't. And, it's one of the reasons, to kind of tie this back to Daniel's case a little bit, one of the reasons I feel like we have such a hard time getting awareness and traction on Daniel's case is because he was a former cop. And there's a huge population of people in this country, or by maybe the world, who believe that all cops are bad, no matter what, don't care. And as soon as they see that a former police officer is accused of such heinous things, it's an automatic for a lot of people. And it's just, they don't want it. They don't want anything to do with it, except for maybe to come into a chat or a comment section and, drag me from one end of the section to the other, calling Daniel the most, vile names and wishing vile things on him. And it really sucks because of those bad cops that are legitimately bad cops, making it almost impossible for a good cop to ever receive justice when they're accused of something.
Shaz, if you're talking about those YouTube shorts where like the black woman who was a judge that had her robe on in the car, that's not a real case. That is staged. There's a bunch of those on YouTube where they are actually staging them. They're staging fake court cases too. And putting them out as YouTube shorts where it's actors.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen anything like that. I honestly haven't really, I kind of go through phases. I went through about 3 months of time period where I was watching constantly, I can't remember what, body worn camera cop videos or whatever. Just because there was,
I
just
have
like
2
so
or 3
entertaining.
different people that do analysis of police body cam that I trust on YouTube, and I watch them, and they show both bad and good.
Yeah.
In fact, what's his name? The lawyer on Southern Draw Law.
Oh, what's his name?
I can't remember the
I know who you're
attorney's
talking
name,
about.
but he actually has on his weekly roundup video that he puts out every week with little updates. One of the things that he does in it is good cop of the week, and he makes it a point to highlight good officers.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, everybody who does any kind of cop videos, I'd like to see them all do just the most simple, basic, version of that, because yeah, it's people who believe all cops are bad, or, all the other stuff, defunding the police, all those things. I'm that it's actually kind of makes me sad, because I think you're taking really bad experiences, maybe their own experiences. I don't know, but really bad experiences, and, calling, making everybody under that same umbrella, everybody in law enforcement under the same umbrella, but it's just not true. So, it's just, it's frustrating, because here we are with a case like Daniel's case.
Yeah.
A good cop, just being dragged and, in prison for effectively 3 lifetimes for crimes he didn't commit, because a group of people or individuals believe that all cops are bad and all cops are racist and all cops are this. And it's just, it's untenable for people to really believe that that's true. But they do. So, hello, Snowflake Henry. Welcome. And thank you for checking in and saying hello. So as I do, I can tie everything to everything somehow, some way or another. I just wanted to kind of, give you guys an idea of, some of the information about, that destruction of evidence clip that I uploaded. I got some heat for the last deposition clip I shared with Janie Liggins. I got heat for weeks on that one. And it was okay. I mean, I stuck with the couple of people who were, calling me vile names and, proving to me that they didn't know anything about the case while they're telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, But anyway, I got heat from one of them because I didn't have the transcript of whatever it was that Janie Liggins was testifying to. Well, I don't necessarily have access to, the transcript. I can get, like I did for this one, I made sure that I was able to put in the transcript lines and things like that on this one with Elaine Taylor. And I might go back and do that now, later with the one with Janie Liggins as well. But, people think that I created the Janie Liggins clip with AI. I listen, I can have a day-long conversation with any AI platform you want to mention. I don't know how to do that shit. I don't know how to make videos, or I still create my own thumbnails. I make emojis for other channels all on my own with very long hours and weeks and painstaking, work and perfection. I know that all can be done with AI, but I don't know how, and I don't want to. I want work that I present to be my original shit.
There is an AI that I use when I deep dive into research about something to get it to mine the latest studies and papers on my molecular biology stuff. That's really all I use it for. I don't use it to write anything. I don't use it to create images. I don't use it to write stories. Yeah. It's easier for me to mine the latest studies and papers that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very new to my molecular biology studies, like zero. But I mean, I don't do anything like that at all. But I do like to do research when I hear something, and especially if I don't get a source for something that people are saying, I need to listen. If you don't know me, I know I've seen a couple of new names in the chat today that I don't recognize. And if I do know who you are, I apologize for not recognizing your name. But Shaz has been around for as long as Cherie and I have been doing this channel. How long? 2020 or 21, I think. It's,
It was in the fall of 2020, like September, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So for as long as we've been doing it, I don't like to present information that I don't know, that I don't have the facts or evidence for. And I try never to say anything or make a claim about anything that I can't, back up and prove. I know almost everything there is to know about Daniel's case, but I don't have access, to share everything with everyone. So I guess it is me just kind of sitting up here telling you what I know, showing you documents when I can, but to, transcripts, for instance, reading the trial transcripts and all those things. I'm fortunate enough to be able to, for us to be able to do that. That was a long time coming, because it was a long time, before that was made possible for us. And so, but I mean, it's also easy for me to sit here and say, trust me, bro. If I'm saying it, it must be true, because I don't expect anybody to feel that way. What I do hope is that, if you doubt anything that we talk about or that we're sharing or showing you documents for, if you doubt it, then you know what? Please, please, please go do your research and find out, get the information yourself. Rick, do you have handy your notebook on Daniel's case?
I got half of it.
Rick, let me just tell you guys, Rick and I and Cherie just barely met sometime early last year. I had no knowledge that Rick knew the same case that we do. Rick just picked up one of his notebooks there. Rick has been doing his own independent research and study on Daniel's case. I don't know for how long, but I haven't given Rick anything. We have not given Rick anything, but he has it looks like a 2 or 3 inch thick binder notebook full of information about Daniel's case.
Yeah, it's one of the green file folders that you hanging folders that you put in a cabinet. Yeah. And this is the second one. The first one is like twice as thick as this. I had to create a second one because I couldn't put any more in the first one.
Regarding Daniel's case and the different things surrounding the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rick did that on his own, just because he saw the corruption in the case and had questions, or thought he saw the corruption and started questioning things. And he started doing his own deep dive very independently of Cherie and I.
I actually got involved in researching Daniel's case at the behest of a fellow referee.
That's
who
right.
Came up to me at a national tournament and went, "Hey, I know you used to be a cop. Can you look into this, because something seems off to me?" And I started looking into it, and I'm like, whoa. No. And just kept diving deeper and deeper from there.
Yeah. So listen, if Rick can do it, or anybody else can do it, and I know there's a couple of other people that I know, RP, Sergeant GP, or oh gosh, Jack, and I think Michael Stetson also might have known a little bit about Daniel's case. There's been a couple of people in Rob's community who we just happened to, like, all of a sudden, like, wait, what? Rick, like, to me, you know about Daniel's case, or me to Rick, you know about what? And so if you're truly interested and you truly have legitimate, valid questions to help, that you need answers to help you make decisions or have a better understanding, you can do it just like Rick did it. Just like, Cherie and I, have spent years, getting information. So don't have to listen to anything any of us say when we do a presentation for you. You can just find the information on your own.
No,
I don't believe it.
When we do these, I'm giving my opinion on the evidence and stuff that I've seen. Don't just take my word for it. Go do your own research.
100%. And if you listen, and if you want to come back and, have a civil debate, with any of us about any particular part of it, please, hit us up in the comment section of any particular, video you might have watched from us or whatever, and ask us, and if you're, being legitimately inquisitive and want to know, let us know. And, who knows what could happen in a future live stream video that we might invite somebody on to help answer questions with them live. I don't know, could happen. But just, don't just throw it. Don't just believe he's guilty just because he used to be a cop and because all of these accusers are Black women. That's not fair. That's not justice. And, the Constitution means a great deal to me. I know it means a great deal to all three of us up here on the panel. And, we just want Cherie became an attorney because of, corruption that she had seen in another case that was so upsetting to her. I shouldn't tell her story, but I mean, I'll let Cherie
Yeah,
tell
it's
if she
true.
wants to. Huh?
Yeah, it's true. That's what spurred me to do it, even when I was a little older than a traditional student.
Right. But that's how much truth and justice, I don't hate saying it, but saying it just sounds, they're just like words almost, but that's how much truth and justice and true justice meant to Cherie. She, at a, like she said, very untraditional age, made a huge decision, to go to law school and get her Juris Doctorate and become an attorney. That's huge to me. That is like ginormous to me that somebody would do that. I took my criminal justice degree. I don't want to say that I just completely tossed it aside, but I never did anything with it. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, but once I started paying more attention to trials and things like that, live trials, and reading documents like court documents and legal documents and things, I was like, gosh, I'm in the I got a degree in the whole wrong place because this is more my passion, wrongful convictions, particularly wrongful convictions. And Oklahoma City has two going on, at least two. There's more. There's a lot more, trust me.
Oh, there's a lot
there's
more.
A lot of stuff goes on in Oklahoma. It's just crazy. But two big wrongful conviction cases that are still ongoing now in Oklahoma City to be specific, Richard Glossop and Daniel Holtzclaw. And Oklahoma City will find the highest mountain they can climb to die on before they will ever make it. I don't want to even say easy, make it even possible vision that Daniel will ever be able to, seek some sort of justice in his case. Richard Glossop has, seen a better hand, in the last year, thankfully. But yeah, so anyway, that's really all I have. I just wanted to let you know that, I'm not, the clip that I shared is not the bullshit clip. I didn't use AI to make it. I don't know how to do that. I will admit the clip that was provided to me was a little fuzzy and a little fuzzy and a little blurry, and the sound wasn't great. And so I did put that through my editing software. Shut up, Rick. Put your screen off. But I did put it through my editing software to clean up some background noise, because I hate background noise. I hate paper shuffling if I can avoid it. And it was a little blurry and a little messy looking, so I just cleaned it up a little bit. I did not alter anything about it, though. And I did the best I could with adding parts, the transcript pieces that I could get to show along with the commentary or the testimony in the video. For those of you who are familiar with or have heard of Kathleen Zellner, she was a part for quite some time. She was a part of the Daniel's defense in the civil suit as far as taking depositions was concerned. Now, if you're familiar with or know anything about Kathleen Zellner, I don't remember the exact title that she has, but she's like the wrongful conviction exoneration god or goddess or queen or king or whatever. She's amazing. And, if it had ever been a possibility to hire her as an attorney, in that civil suit, that would have been great. She was basically there, though, to take the depositions from what I understand. Is that kind of your recollection of it, Cherie, or no?
That seems to be most of what I've seen her do, at least,
Yeah.
I don't
She wasn't
remember
there
if there were any filings by her. I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
there were no filings, and I don't believe that, of course by the time that was going to go to trial, he had a whole different attorney and whatever, but and then it got dropped, so it didn't ever need to be, nothing needed to come from it. But I don't know, hopefully someday there'll be more information about depositions coming out. I have no idea, but if and when that time comes, or if and when I am able to show another clip, I sure will. And it sucks, when you can only do bits and pieces of a thing and then try to explain it. But that's all I have. That's all I can do. That's all we can do. And, regardless of how it comes out, that's, we're going to share everything we can with you as soon as we can. So Daniel is, in my opinion, 100%, hands down, no question in my mind, 100% innocent of every single crime he was accused of. So that's just me. That's based on my own research, my own experiences, my own, years of reading. And, but I want everybody else to make your own decision. So that's about all I really have. I don't know what, I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to talk more about Joyce Gilchrist. Let me say, I meant to make this a part of this. Pardon me. I do want to say that Elaine Taylor's departure from the Oklahoma City Crime Lab, probably completely legitimate, whatever, planned. I don't know. But she retired before she had announced a retirement, but then ended up retiring sooner, I believe is how it went, than what she had announced. And the secret hearings that we've talked about a couple of times on this stream, on our videos, the secret hearings are thought to have been about Elaine Taylor's trial testimony in Daniel's case. I don't know that for sure. Nobody knows that for sure, because those hearings were sealed. I think it was 2017, June, I think of 2017. 2 days of secret hearings were held, I think, regarding Elaine Taylor, is our belief.
I'm 100% sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let Rick say that. I can't really say that, but it's been reported even in the Oklahoma news, I guess is really the best way for me to say it. It was reported in the Oklahoma news, local news at the time, that it had something to do with Elaine Taylor. It involved, not having access to a bunch of emails that were FOIA'd, for her emails that were allegedly lost or destroyed. And then sometime later, several thousand of them magically reappeared and I guess we're turned over via FOIA. So, but Campbell Ruddock was a part of those secret hearings, and Campbell Ruddock was, at least at that time, I don't know if he still is, but Campbell Ruddock was the supervisor in the crime lab during the time that Elaine Taylor was testifying in Daniel's case. So, and we know, we've gone over it several times. Rick just did a really, really, really deep dive, in-depth stream last year sometime, going over the DNA evidence, using my air quotes, in Daniel's case. We know for a fact there are shenanigans in the DNA, the way it was presented, or testified about, or things like that. We know for a fact that Galen Gigger, the prosecutor in Daniel's case, lied about the DNA in his closing argument, in his rebuttal closing argument to the jury at the end of the trial. So when you pair those few things that we've talked about at length on our different shows with the history that is told very, very well in great detail in Mark Fuhrman's book, I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't come away thinking that there's a pattern of corruption, of bad behavior.
According to LinkedIn, he's still
the supervisor.
He's still head of the DNA section. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, from what I don't know, because we don't get to know what happened in those hearings, but I know he was a part of them. And I don't know, just what little bit I've been able to find out about Campbell Ruddock. I feel like he's fairly decent, and unless they've managed to corrupt him, I don't feel like he was part of the big corruption that's gone on in Oklahoma City.
And there's the news report on the hearings that you're talking about.
Oh, good. Yeah, and we did sometime last year. And I'm sure it's labeled something about the secret hearings, but we did an entire video where I went through every single news report in order of when they occurred, talking about the secret hearings. So, there's a news report there, and then there's also a pretty extensive video talking about the whole secret hearings thing too. And why secret hearings? Why are we? It's so fucking frustrating. Why secret hearings? I get ex parte for certain reasons, for a short amount of time, sealed information, sealed documents for specific cases, protecting a victim, or I don't know, just, there's a myriad of reasons why an ex parte or a motion or a hearing is sealed for a while. I get it. And I support that when it's, legitimate and the right thing to do. This is we're going on 10 years now since these hearings were done. And those you cannot FOIA that information. It's sealed.
Oh, you can FOIA it. They're going to deny it.
You can. They're going to
deny it under an exception, but
yeah. And that's just ridiculous to me. That should be public knowledge. It should have been public knowledge. Almost, it should have just never been. It should have just never been, because don't forget, in case you have not. They're called secret hearings because nobody knew about them except for the people that were involved, and the person whose case it was about, Daniel, and his attorney were never notified and or invited to those hearings that were held for 2 days. They heard about it probably like everybody else did, I think, on through the news that it had happened. So why? He's in prison. you know, for the rest of his next 2 lives. Why do they need to be sealed? What needs to be hidden in those hearings? Just think about that. Just let that sink in, and then just tie that all back to the corruption that has been a part of Oklahoma City for decades now. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. I've talked again. And so I just wanted to give you guys a few things to think about, outside of the actual trial part of Daniel's case, that are things that are relevant, things that are, behind, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but things that I don't think we think about just on the forefront when we think about somebody's trial or their case or whatever. So there's always little things behind that we don't know about, and we don't get to know about unless there are people like Rick doing deep dives to get information. So
Chaz, to be very honest, before we go, you want to know what I think the meetings were about? I think that Elaine had lost her certification. I think she failed to do her continuing education because she had decided that she was going to retire, and she actually was no longer certified when she did that testing on Daniel's case.
yeah. I had not thought about that, but you know what?
Which is a problem because she testified as a certified analyst.
Yeah, she did. She sure did. And we know, like I said about you doing your deep dive on the forensics, and other videos that we've done, we know that there are questions about the DNA in Daniel's case. So,
all kinds of questions about it.
Yep. And part of that questioning is when, Elaine Taylor testified that Daniel Holtzclaw's DNA was not found on his own pants. And when they talked about...
Which is complete and utter bullshit.
Right. Yeah, it's just impossible. It's impossible. But I've shown it before, that that's not true, that there is actual evidence of Daniel's DNA on his own pants. And
Yep.
the DNA about the 17-year-old, Adara Gardner, that amount of DNA was so minuscule on the inside of his pants that I don't know if it fell below the scope. I can't remember. I'll be honest. I cannot remember if it did fall below I can't say the word stochastic threshold.
Yep.
But I know that it was so minimal that it should not have been used in his trial.
Yeah, it was below the threshold for direct transfer.
Yes. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, that's not what Dave, what's his name? Galen Gigger said in his rebuttal closing argument.
Gigger would say the sky is chartreuse if it would get him a conviction and he could get a jury to buy it.
Yeah, and he did.
I would not put it past him to put chartreuse colored film on the windows in the jury room. So they looked out the window and went, "Oh, he's right.
He's right." Yeah. Oh, so, those are it's the little things that, aren't in the forefront, that those people who, called me a racist cunt and a racist bitch and a racist, all the other words they said about me, and that I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. Wrong, dickholes. Well, I know everything that I'm sharing.
It's more than just Daniel's case.
Yeah.
That if one of your analysts fails to do their continuing education and loses their certification and you still employ them, your lab can lose its accreditation because you're allowing a uncertified person to do testing in that lab. So it goes beyond Daniel's case if I'm correct and that's what was going on. Because if that lab lost its accreditation, every single piece
Every
of
case.
evidence she touched after her certification lapsed is tainted.
Yep. Is unusable. It's basically unusable, but it was used. Yeah. I had never thought about that, Rick. I don't think that was something that had ever crossed my mind.
I don't actively practice anymore as a PA. I still do my continuing education so I can keep my license.
Right. I know a lot of attorneys who no longer practice anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, Robert doesn't
Robert.
actively practice anymore.
But I believe he keeps his bar license,
Yes.
whatever, up to date. Because you never know. I know for a fact, I don't know if it's ever come to this time period yet or not for Cherie. I know for a fact that she would lose her mind if she even got close to her, bar license, expire, whatever that does. I don't know. Not keeping up with their education for her.
You want to see me make Cherie lose her mind? I can do it very simply. President Trump's chief of staff's lawyer waived privilege and allowed the FBI to record a phone call between him and Susie Wiles, but never informed his client that he had done so. Cherie?
Wow. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, that came out this morning.
Who is it? Somebody that...
Susie Wiles, President Trump's chief of staff, her attorney, was contacted by the FBI, and he waived privilege and allowed them to record a phone conversation between her and him without her knowledge.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that. I haven't heard that.
Wow.
No matter what side of politics you're on, that's bad. Regardless, that's just bad. That's bad. What? And she didn't even know it?
Nope. She didn't know about it until the documents got found at the FBI.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't stand the corruption.
Correct me if I'm
anywhere.
wrong, but my attorney waiving his privilege doesn't mean that mine's waived, right? He's not allowed to waive my privilege for me unless I tell him I agree to have my privilege waived.
No, he's not.
That's despicable. Any behaviors that are not in favor of your client are despicable. Speaking of, and I'm going to ask the chat. There's only a few left right now, but oh my God, the Corey Richards trial. Oh, so this is a local trial here to me in Utah. It's not local. I mean, I live about 40 miles southwest of Summit County where this trial's being held.
Yeah, I've been following that one.
Have you? Oh my gosh. I've been telling people, like in Robert's community, for instance, if you don't know about this trial in this case and you think you're not interested, you're wrong. You're just wrong for not being interested in it because it is a wild trial. You're following it, Chess? Oh my gosh, I need to listen to today's testimony. I haven't had a chance to listen to today's. Don't spoil anything for me. I understand. The only thing I did think that I saw or heard was that the alleged drug dealer, the one who sold the fentanyl, to Corey Richins was testifying today, from what I understand. So I'm going to probably spend the rest of the night listening to today's testimony in the Corey Richins case. But I will tell you this much: I don't like her defense attorneys. And this is off of Daniel, just in case anybody wants to say, sayonara, see you later, thanks, don't want to listen anymore. But because I have to talk about this. Initially, I had planned, I talked to Cherie a little bit about this Sunday, the day before the trial started. I thought about
I'm
way
just
back.
cut out of all discussions now. I don't get
No,
the
not you.
information. The send button doesn't get hit.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Listen, Rick, if you want to join in on the conversations, the phone calls with me and Cherie, you're welcome to it at any time. I'll hit you up in the three-way chat and you can listen or not.
I'm just picking on you, sweetheart.
Yeah, it's all good. I deserve it. But way back, a year ago, when I created my second channel, Sassy Gemini, part of the intention of that was because I wanted to live stream Corey Richins' trial. Now, there's no way I could possibly live stream an entire trial. I just can't. I don't work outside. I mean, I'm retired. I don't have a job other than, doing stuff for Daniel's case and, things like that. But I can't, there's no way I could live stream a trial 5 days a week for 4 or 5 weeks. I can't do that. I would lose my mind. So I was kind of thinking maybe I would just kind of give daily updates at the end of every day, at the end of, court every afternoon. I would just do like a wrap up or a summary of what happened in court that on any given day. I can't remember if it was the first day or the second day, though. With that attorney Ramos, that defense attorney Ramos, he freaking was out of control.
Note to self, watch for the mushroom cloud to the west later tonight.
Oh, God. Oh, well, listen, I wanted to do it. I wanted to do a wrap up, every day after court. But, for instance, like days like today, I spent the day trying to, put together a coherent presentation for everybody. And, I haven't even got to listen to today's court, but I wanted to do it. I mean, I don't know. I guess if there were enough people that were like, yeah, do a weekly wrap up of the trial every week or something on the Sassy Gemini channel. If people wanted that, I might consider doing a weekly summary. I could try that, and I would be willing to try that if people wanted me to. But anyway, it's just a why. So my recommendations right now, I have 3 recommendations. Read the book, Death and Justice by Mark Fuhrman. You won't be sorry. It's not really very long. So read the book. Maybe tie that back to what I tried to talk about here tonight. Tying in all the corruption and everything. And then start paying attention to the Corey Richins trial in Summit County, Utah, because it's insane. Now, another thing I think that I mentioned to Cherie the other day, and I think she wasn't aware of this, but if you're not aware, if anybody listening or listening later is not aware, Kathy Nestor is one of the defense attorneys for Corey Richins. Initially, Corey Richins' trial was going to be, there was talk of it being a death penalty case. And I think having something to do with the fact that, there are still 3 little children involved, I'm speculating that this is what I thought I heard a long time ago. They decided not to impose or ask for the death penalty. Just, I don't know why, but, for the children's sake, even though they don't have any contact from what I understand with their mom, to take both parents away from the children, I guess. But Sky Lazaro was initially Corey Richins' defense attorney. Corey Richins shit on Sky Lazaro, in my opinion, of course, only my opinion. And, for whatever reason, I guess conflict of interest somehow or other, Sky Lazaro had to step away from defending Corey Richins. Then she ended up with being appointed a death penalty eligible attorney, who was Kathy Nestor, who is still her attorney, one of her 3 attorneys now. So there's Kathy Nestor, Ms. Lewis, and Mr. Ramos, Mr. Ramos, I don't know if he had too much fucking Red Bull, or I don't know what his performance was on that day when he first did that cross witness of that poor cop, that poor officer who just was a responding officer. He obliterated that poor guy like he was the lead investigator of all cases in the county. But anyway, so then they decided not to pursue the death penalty for Corey Richins, but she still has, her death penalty qualified team. Kathy Nestor is also the court-appointed attorney, death penalty qualified attorney for Tyler Robinson here in Orem, Utah, the kid who assassinated Charlie Kirk. Now, I had a problem with that from the very beginning, because how can the same attorney be representing the 2 most high-profile cases in the state at the same time? To me, it just didn't make sense. Again, there's not a lot of, like Cherie had mentioned the other day, like as with Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell, when you're seeking the death penalty, your attorneys have to be qualified in representing death penalty, their client, if they're, seeking the death penalty against your client. Same with Tyler Robinson. You had to have it, and they're not a lot of death penalty qualified attorneys, I guess, in the state of Utah, evidently. So anyway, I don't watch any of the Tyler Robinson stuff, just because I know I sound like a broken record, but just because I'm potentially in the jury pool for that case, I don't pay any attention to it anymore. But it's impossible to not know when there's a hearing that's going to happen. And so here we were, what day was it? Monday or Tuesday or yesterday, maybe. There's a hearing for Tyler Robinson down here in Utah County. So you would think one of his attorneys would need to be in court, but one of his attorneys was in Summit County, in the Corey Richins trial. So anyway, that was just a useless piece of information I just shared, but just seemed wrong to me. Yet all of that horse shit aside, Utah taxpayers are footing the bill for Corey Richins' trial and Tyler Robinson's trial. That pisses me off.
Yep.
But it's, everybody deserves a trial and, good and fair representation, and I get all that stuff. So anyway, Shaz says she would I'll see, maybe I can do a wrap up this weekend. Shaz, perhaps if I can figure out how to, there was no court yesterday. I think they only had like an hour of testimony or something yesterday. So perhaps I can, try to put together some sort of a wrap up and put it on Sassy Gemini channel. I'll see how I feel. But anyway, just tie all the things together that we've shared with you tonight and read the book. I don't have anything else I can say. Now I'm just rambling the same shit over and over. Rick, do you have any final comments that don't include chastising me? Okay.
Oh, I haven't begun to do that yet. We'll talk later.
Oh, man. I'm counting on it. and Cherie with the brand new grandbaby,
What?
Charlemagne. Oh, you weren't here. Yes, Cherie.
Congrats!
Yes.
Thank you. She's beautiful. Not that I'm
so
prejudiced, but
Well,
it was
I
a
am
very
too,
good
though.
podcast. We had some interesting and important discussions. Thank you.
Yeah. Listen to, read the book, maybe listen to some of this over again, and then look into those other 3 videos I told you about from a long time ago that we did with those 3. And, I'm really surprised at how much detail I put in that Bob Macy slide. Rick said he's going to put it into presentable format that we can share for you guys on Discord, so you guys can go through that. I obviously put a ton of detail in that I forgot about. So, because I'm really curious, leave some comments down in the comments section, because I'm really curious about how people feel about a crime lab that, willingly admits that they destroyed evidence, no matter who they said gave them permission and how it was done and why and all that. I really, really want to know what people think about that. So, okay. Until next time, I don't know what we're going to bring next time. It'll be a surprise for sure. Hopefully not more than
to me.
Shut up, Rick. I'm going to let Rick do the whole next thing all by himself and not tell me or Cherie what he's going to do. I think that's fair. Okay, well, tell Cherie, but not me. I'll just get on here and turn it all on for you, and you guys can do your thing. Leave me in the dark. Anyway, so until next time, whatever little surprise we happen to bring, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for the new names that I saw in the chat. Thank you for participating. And I hope you'll come back again and listen to whatever comes next. So until next time, peace out.